The notification sound pierced through the silence at 11:42 p.m. Connor Mitchell stared at his phone screen in the dim light of his Portland apartment, expecting another security contract update or bill reminder. Instead, the message came from an unknown number, carrying words that would shatter his carefully constructed walls. "He's beating my mom. Please help." Connor's breath caught. His thumb hovered over the screen as memories of another frightened child flashed through his mind. 24 years in the private security business had taught him to recognize scams, pranks, desperate attempts for attention. But something about these simple words felt different, raw, real. Before he could process fully, another message appeared. "I'm hiding. He said he'll kill her." The phone trembled in Connor's hands. He was no stranger to violence, had built Mitchell Security Solutions on his ability to handle dangerous situations with calculated precision. But this wasn't business. This was an 8-year-old child reaching into the darkness, trusting a stranger because she had nowhere else to turn. Connor's mind raced back to Everett, Washington, 17 years ago. Jamie Mitchell, his younger brother with the infectious laugh and trusting eyes, lying motionless on the school hallway floor. The promise Connor had whispered through tears as paramedics worked frantically around them. He typed 3 words that would change everything. "I'm on my way." His security team meeting could wait. The quarterly reports scattered across his kitchen table suddenly seemed meaningless. Connor grabbed his keys, his service weapon, and the weight of a promise he thought he'd buried with his brother. The drive through Portland's empty streets felt like traveling through time itself. Every traffic light, every intersection brought him closer to a moment he'd spent years avoiding, a chance to honor words spoken in grief and desperation. His BMW cut through the night toward Richmond District, San Francisco, where a little girl named Lily Chen waited in the darkness, hoping a stranger would prove that sometimes the world still held heroes. As Connor's headlights swept across the California freeway, another message lit up his phone. "I hear footsteps. Please hurry." He pressed harder on the accelerator, his pulse hammering against his ribs. Tonight, he wasn't driving as Connor Mitchell, successful security contractor who'd spent 2 decades building emotional barriers. He was racing toward redemption as the older brother who'd failed to protect Jamie when it mattered most. The GPS announced 2 hours to destination. 2 hours for a terrified child who might not have 2 minutes. But Connor had learned something in his years of protecting others, that fear taught you to run, but love taught you to run toward the danger instead of away from it. The dashboard clock glowed ominously. 1 hour, 47 minutes remaining. Connor's mind drifted to that terrible night in Everett when he'd been hiding his first relationship with David Park, too ashamed to be home when Jamie needed him most. While Connor was kissing a boy behind the school gymnasium, afraid of what his family might think, his little brother was facing down a gunman alone. His phone buzzed with another message from Lily. "I can't find Mama anymore. There's blood." Those words echoed the nightmares Connor had carried for 24 years. This time, he wouldn't arrive too late. This time, love would drive him forward instead of shame holding him back. The past wouldn't win again tonight. Before we continue this incredible journey of courage and second chances, don't forget to subscribe to Heart Stories and hit that notification bell. Share in the comments where you're watching from tonight, and let us know if you've ever received an unexpected message that changed your life. Now, let's discover how a wrong number became exactly the right person at exactly the right moment. To understand the man racing through the California night, we must travel back 24 years to a different Connor Mitchell. Back then, he was 17 and terrified, living in Bellingham, Washington with his single mother Diana and 15-year-old brother Jamie. Their father had walked out when Connor was 12, unable to handle what he called his eldest son's strange tendencies. Connor had known he was different since middle school, but in small-town Washington in the late 90s, being gay wasn't just difficult, it was dangerous. He'd learned to hide, to pretend, to date girls while his heart yearned for something his family and community would never accept. Jamie was different. Where Connor built walls, Jamie built bridges. where Connor learned fear, Jamie practiced fearlessness. The younger brother who stood up to bullies, who asked uncomfortable questions about fairness, who somehow always knew when Connor was hurting, even when Connor refused to say why. The night everything changed, Connor was 17 miles away, kissing David Peck behind the Everett Community Center. For 3 months, they'd been meeting in secret, stealing moments between Connor's shifts at the auto shop and David's violin lessons. Connor had finally worked up the courage to say the words he'd carried like stones in his chest. "I think I love you." David had smiled, touched Connor's face with gentle fingers, whispered back the same words Connor had dreamed of hearing. They were planning to tell their families, to stop hiding, to build something real together. That's when Connor's phone rang. Diana's voice was broken, barely recognizable through the static and sirens. There had been a shooting at Everett High School. 3 students dead, 7 wounded. Jamie was among them. By the time Connor reached the hospital, the fluorescent lights felt like judgment, exposing every moment he'd chosen David over family dinners, secret meetings over homework help, his own happiness over his brother's safety. Jamie lay unconscious, machines beeping around him like a countdown to forever. The doctors spoke in hushed tones about internal bleeding, about damage too severe for a 15-year-old body to survive. But before the monitors went silent, Jamie squeezed Connor's hand one last time. "Promise me," Jamie whispered, his voice barely audible above the medical equipment. "Promise you'll protect kids who can't protect themselves." Connor promised through tears that felt like acid on his cheeks. It was the last conversation they ever had. After the funeral, Connor's relationship with David crumbled under the weight of guilt and grief. Connor couldn't look at David without remembering where he'd been when Jamie needed him most. He broke up via text message, enlisted in the Marines, and spent the next 4 years trying to build himself into someone worthy of keeping promises. The military gave Connor structure, purpose, a way to channel his guilt into service. He excelled in combat training, earned commendations for bravery under fire, slowly began to believe he might actually honor Jamie's final request. Then came Captain Richard Sterling. Sterling was everything Connor thought he wanted to become. A decorated officer with 20 years of service, respect from subordinates and superiors alike. Sterling took Connor under his wing, mentored him through advanced training, spoke about the importance of sacrifice and duty. What Connor didn't know was that Sterling had been watching him for months, had noticed the way Connor never talked about girlfriends back home, never joined the other Marines at strip clubs during leave. Sterling had spent his entire career hiding his own sexuality, terrified of losing everything he'd built. When Sterling discovered Connor's relationship with Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez, he faced a choice: protect a young Marine's career or destroy it to protect his own secret. Sterling chose destruction. The don't ask, don't tell investigation was swift and merciless. Connor was dishonorably discharged within weeks, his military career ending before his promise to Jamie had truly begun. Sterling remained untouched, his secret safe behind Connor's ruined reputation. Connor returned to civilian life broken and angry, but not defeated. Using his military training and the insurance money from Jamie's death, he started Mitchell Security Solutions in Portland. For 15 years, he built a successful business protecting families and businesses, always searching for ways to honor Jamie's memory. But success came with a price. Connor had learned to trust no one completely, to keep his sexuality private, to never let anyone close enough to hurt him again. He became the kind of man who could handle any crisis except the ones happening inside his own heart. Until tonight, when an 8-year-old girl's desperate message reminded him that some promises are worth risking everything to keep. Sometimes the boy you failed to protect can still save the child you're racing to rescue. Connor's BM pulled into Richmond District as the city clock struck 1 a.m. The neighborhood felt eerily quiet, fog rolling in from the Pacific like ghostly fingers reaching through empty streets. Geary Boulevard stretched ahead, lined with Asian restaurants and small businesses that had closed hours ago. The address led him to a narrow 2-story house squeezed between a Vietnamese market and a dim sum restaurant. Most windows were dark, but Connor could see movement through thin curtains, shadows dancing against yellow light that flickered like a candle about to die. He sat in his car for 30 seconds, assessing the situation with military precision. No police vehicles, no ambulances, no neighbors peering from windows. Whatever nightmare was unfolding inside that house, it was happening in complete isolation. Lily Chen and her mother were facing this terror alone. Connor's phone buzzed with another message. He found me. Those two words hit him like physical blows. Connor grabbed his service weapon, checked the safety, and moved toward the house with the calculated stealth he'd learned in Afghanistan. The front door hung slightly ajar, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. He could hear voices inside, a man's slurred shouting mixing with a woman's pleading, the sound of something breaking, glass hitting hardwood floors, then silence that felt more dangerous than the noise. Connor slipped through the front door without a sound. The living room looked like a war zone, furniture overturned, family photographs scattered across the floor, a child's backpack dumped in the corner with homework spilling out like evidence of a normal life that had been shattered. In the center of it all lay Linda Chen, Lily's mother. She was unconscious, her dark hair matted with blood, breathing shallow but steady. Connor knelt beside her, checking her pulse with the same gentle touch he'd once used to comfort Jamie. Linda would survive if she got medical attention soon. Heavy footsteps thundered down the hallway. A man's voice, thick with alcohol and rage, called out threats that made Connor's jaw clench. "Come out, you little brat. You think you can hide from me forever." Connor rose slowly, every muscle in his body coiling like springs ready to unleash 24 years of controlled violence. This wasn't business anymore. This wasn't about territory or respect or calculated intimidation. This was personal in a way that reached down to the broken parts of his soul and demanded justice. The attacker appeared at the end of the hallway. He was a big man, probably 6'3", with arms like tree trunks and hands stained with Linda's blood. But Connor recognized something else immediately. The swagger of someone used to using size to intimidate the helpless. The cowardly brutality that targeted the vulnerable. "Who the hell are you?" the man slurred, swaying slightly on his feet. "This ain't your business, friend. Get out of my house before I throw you out." Connor said nothing. He simply studied the man with the same cold calculation he'd once used to evaluate enemy combatants before neutralizing them. He cataloged weaknesses, measured distances, calculated exactly how much force would be required to end this threat permanently. "I said get out!" the man roared, stumbling forward with his fists raised. Connor moved like lightning striking water. One moment, the man was charging toward him. The next, he was flat on his back with Connor's hand wrapped around his throat. The speed and precision of the takedown was surgical, professional, terrifying in its efficiency. "Listen very carefully," Connor said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm going to ask you one question, and your life depends on giving me the right answer. Where is the little girl?" The man's eyes bulged as he struggled against Connor's grip. He tried to speak, but only managed choking sounds. Connor loosened his hold just enough to allow words. "I don't know what you're talking about," the man gasped. "Wrong answer," Connor replied. His grip tightened again, this time with enough pressure to make the man's vision start to fade around the edges. "Let me rephrase that. Lily Chen, 8 years old, probably hiding somewhere in this house while you terrorized her and beat her mother unconscious. Where is she?" The mention of Lily's name seemed to penetrate the man's alcohol-soaked brain. His expression shifted from confusion to something approaching fear. Not fear of Connor, not yet, but fear that his secret was exposed. "Look, man, this is all a misunderstanding," he wheezed. "Linda's my girlfriend. We had a fight. Things got out of hand. But the kid's not even mine. I was just trying to discipline her." Connor's other hand moved to his jacket. The man's eyes widened as he caught a glimpse of the weapon holstered there. Suddenly, the gravity of his situation became crystal clear. "Please," the man whispered. I didn't mean for things to go this far." Before Connor could respond, a small voice called out from upstairs, weak and frightened, but unmistakably alive. "Chris, is that you, Lily?" She had remembered the name he'd given her in their text conversation. She was calling for him like he was some kind of hero, some kind of savior who could make all the monsters go away. The sound of that small voice, so full of hope despite everything she'd endured, broke something fundamental inside Connor's chest. For the first time in 24 years, Connor felt the walls he'd built around his heart begin to crumble. The same crack that had started with Jamie's death widened into a fissure that threatened to split his carefully constructed emotional defenses completely open. "I'm here, Lily," Connor called back, his voice steady despite the chaos raging inside his chest. "You're safe now. Come down when you're ready." He hauled Brad Morrison to his feet and dragged him toward the kitchen, away from Lily's line of sight. Whatever happened next would happen without a traumatized child watching. Connor had learned enough about trauma to know that some things, once seen, could never be unseen. In the kitchen, away from innocent eyes, Brad Morrison discovered what it meant to face a man who had just remembered what it felt like to have something worth protecting. The fluorescent light above flickered like a dying heartbeat, casting shadows that danced across Brad's terrified face. "You want to talk about discipline," Connor said, pressing Brad against the counter with its surgical precision. "Let me tell you what I learned in Afghanistan about men who hurt children." But before Connor could continue, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. The caller ID made his blood run cold. Captain Richard Sterling. After 15 years of silence, Sterling was calling tonight. Connor ignored the call, but the interruption had broken his focus. Brad sensed the shift and made a desperate attempt to explain himself. "You don't understand the whole situation," Brad stammered. "That kid's been nothing but trouble since her dad died in that car accident 2 years ago. Linda can't control her, can't pay her bills, can't keep the house together. I've been trying to help, giving her money, being a father figure." Connor's jaw tightened. He recognized the pattern, the justifications, the way predators convinced themselves they were saviors. But something else nagged at him, a detail that didn't fit. "How long have you known Linda?" Connor asked. 6 months. "Look, I know how this looks, but Linda needed help. She's been struggling since her husband died, working double shifts at UCSF Medical Center, trying to raise that kid alone. I was just trying to help them get back on their feet." Connor's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text message from Sterling. "I know where you are. We need to talk." The words hit Connor like ice water. Sterling had somehow tracked him here, which meant Connor's involvement in tonight's events wouldn't remain secret. His business, his carefully rebuilt life, everything he'd worked for could be destroyed if Sterling chose to expose him. "You're a cop," Connor said to Brad. Not a question, but a statement of recognition. "Former cop, SFPD, got into some trouble a few years back. Had to resign." Brad's voice carried a mixture of shame and defiance. "But I still know people, still have connections. You lay a hand on me and you'll have every cop in the Bay Area looking for you." Connor processed this information with growing unease. Brad Morrison wasn't just a random abuser. He was a former police officer with connections and knowledge of how the system worked. Worse, he clearly knew more about Connor than he should. "I know who you are. Mitchell," Brad continued, sensing he'd gained some leverage. "Marine Discharge under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, runs a security company out of Portland. You think I don't recognize military training when I see it? You think I can't put 2 and 2 together?" The sound of footsteps on the stairs interrupted their conversation. Lily was coming down to meet the stranger who had answered her desperate plea for help. Connor made a decision that would haunt him for months to come. He didn't kill Brad Morrison. Instead, he made a choice that was somehow more terrifying. "You're going to walk out that back door and disappear from this city forever," Connor said. "You're never going to contact Linda Chen again. You're never going to come within 50 miles of Lily Chen again. You're going to find a new place to live. Maybe a new name if you're smart." Brad's eyes widened with hope. This wasn't the death sentence he'd expected. But, Connor added, and that single word carried enough weight to crush Brad's relief entirely. If I ever hear about you laying hands on another woman or child, if your name crosses my desk in connection with any kind of domestic violence, I will find you. And when I find you, Brad Morrison, what I do to you will make tonight look like a conversation between friends. Connor leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely audible levels. I have resources you can't imagine, connections in places you've never heard of. I will know if you hurt someone. I will know where to find you, and I will come for you. Brad scrambled toward the back door, his hands shaking so badly he could barely turn the handle. As he stepped into the darkness beyond, Connor called out one final warning. 24 hours. Brad, you have 24 hours to be gone from this city. 25 hours from now. If you're still here, our conversation continues permanently. The door slammed shut, leaving Connor alone in the kitchen with the weight of his decision. He had let Brad live, but not out of mercy. He had let Brad live because killing him would have been the easy solution, the old solution. Tonight called for something different, something that honored Jamie's memory without destroying Connor's soul in the process. Connor pulled out his phone and dialed a number he knew by heart. Dr. Samuel Park answered on the second ring despite the late hour. Connor, what's wrong? I need a favor, Sam. A woman named Linda Chen, unconscious from head trauma, probably concussion. She needs immediate medical attention, but no questions asked, no police reports filed. There was a pause on the other end. Sam had been Connor's physician for 8 years, and he understood the unspoken rules of their arrangement. Sam treated injuries and asked no questions. Connor made generous donations to Sam's free clinic in Chinatown. Where are you? Connor gave him the address. Sam, this is different. This isn't business. This is personal. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Sam replied. Connor, are you okay? You sound... I'm fine, Connor lied. Just hurry. After ending the call, Connor walked back into the living room where Lily sat beside her mother, holding Linda's hand and whispering gentle encouragement. The sight of her small figure maintaining such brave composure in the face of unimaginable trauma reminded him so powerfully of Jamie that he had to steady himself against the doorframe. Lily looked up as he approached. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was something else there too. Relief, gratitude, trust. Is he gone? She asked quietly. He's gone, Connor confirmed. He won't be coming back. Is Mama going to be okay? Connor knelt beside Lily, bringing himself down to her eye level, just as he had done with Jamie so many years ago. I've called a very good doctor. He's going to take care of your Mama and make sure she gets better. Lily nodded, accepting this promise with the simple faith that children possess before the world taught them to doubt. Chris, she said, using the name he had given her during their text conversation. Why did you come help us? You don't even know us. The question hit him like a physical blow. How could he explain to an 8-year-old that her desperate message had reached across decades of buried grief and reawakened parts of his soul he thought were dead forever? How could he tell her that helping her was really about honoring a promise he had made to another little child who hadn't lived to see justice done? Because, he said finally, someone very important once made me promise to help kids when they were scared. Who was that? My brother. His name was Jamie. Lily seemed to consider this seriously. Is he nice? He was the best person I ever knew. Where is he now? Connor felt tears threatening at the corners of his eyes for the first time in 24 years. He's in heaven, but I think he would have liked you very much. Lily reached out and took his hand with the same trusting gesture Jamie had used during those final moments in the hospital. The contact sent shock waves through Connor's carefully controlled emotional defenses. I'm glad you kept your promise to him, Lily said simply. In that moment, Connor realized that everything in his life had been leading to this point. All the violence, all the power, all the emotional barriers he had accumulated over the years suddenly seemed like preparation for something larger. He had built an empire of protection, but tonight that empire served its true purpose. Car lights swept across the front windows. Doctor, Samuel Park had arrived with his medical equipment and his discretion intact. Soon Linda would receive the care she needed, and Lily would have her mother back. But Connor knew that his involvement in their lives was just beginning. For the first time in decades, he had found something worth protecting that had nothing to do with business contracts or profit margins. He had found a family that needed him. And perhaps more importantly, he had found his way back to the promise he had made to Jamie. As Sam worked on Linda, Connor stepped outside to make another phone call. This one would set in motion changes that would ripple through his life and beyond. "Marcus," he said when his business partner answered, "I need you to arrange something. A trust fund, completely anonymous, enough to cover college tuition and living expenses for a young girl named Lily Chen." "Boss, what's going on? You sound different." "I'm keeping a promise," Connor replied. "And Marcus, clear my schedule for the next few weeks. I have some personal business to attend to." For the first time in 24 years, Connor Mitchell was putting family first. Not the family he'd been born into, but the family he'd chosen to protect. The little girl who had sent a desperate text to a wrong number was about to discover that sometimes the most unexpected guardian angels come wearing expensive suits and carrying the weight of their own redemption stories. 6 months later, Lily Chen stood in the doorway of her new bedroom in Marina District, watching through sparkling clean windows as children played in the safe neighborhood Connor had quietly moved them to. Linda had recovered completely. Her bruises long faded. Her smile returned stronger than before. But the real transformation belonged to Connor himself. He visited every Sunday, not as the feared security contractor of Portland, but as Uncle Connor, the man who taught Lily self-defense and helped with her homework. He had kept his promise to Jamie in ways he never imagined possible. Mitchell's Security Solutions had evolved too, launching the Safe Haven division that specialized in protecting domestic violence survivors and LGBTQ+ youth. The empire Connor had built through calculated precision now served a different purpose, creating safety for families like Linda and Lily. Brad Morrison had vanished that night, just as Connor promised he would. Word had spread through certain circles about what happened to men who hurt children in Connor Mitchell's territory. The message was clear and absolute. But the most profound change wasn't in business metrics or territorial influence. It was in Connor himself. He had discovered that the hardest heart could choose love over revenge, that the darkest soul could find redemption in the innocent trust of a child who needed saving. Connor had also found something else he hadn't expected. His relationship with Dr. Samuel Park had deepened beyond professional courtesy. What started as medical consultations had grown into something neither man had anticipated, a connection built on shared values and mutual respect. They were taking things slowly, both understanding the weight of trust after years of emotional isolation. Lily's desperate text had been sent to the wrong number, but sometimes the wrong number turns out to be exactly the right person at exactly the right moment. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, wearing expensive suits and carrying the weight of promises made to dying children. Have you ever had a moment where helping someone else helped heal a part of yourself you didn't even know was broken? Connor's story reminds us that our greatest wounds can become our greatest strengths when we choose to use them in service of protecting others. If this story moved you, share it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Heart Stories for more incredible true stories that prove even the most broken hearts can heal when given the chance to love again.